I like to start by asking you to take a second or two to think of 3 things that you know for sure. They can be about your personal life, about your work life, anything. 3 things you know for sure, and just take a second or two. Okay? I'm going to tell you my 3 things, in this, at least for today. I know, first of all, that my children are loved. I know that I don't like black olives. And I know that into the core fiber of my being, I absolutely love my job. What I did was I invented a little company called Cookie Text. It's called Cookie Text and Edible Tweet. And what we do at Cookie Text is we take your special message, pair it with our homemade cookie cake, and we hand deliver it for any occasion. We launched out back in 2011. We had one product. We had a 8x8-inch square chocolate chip cookie cake, one size. Now we hit our 4th anniversary in this October. We have 6 different flavors, 4 different sizes. Everything is made from scratch. Everything's baked to order. Everything's hand delivered. You can order as late as 9 o'clock the night before. Orders are done online. We do corporate orders through email and text, but that's something else entirely. So you can order as late as 9 o'clock, and we'll have a fresh product delivered to you the next day. We deliver from Williamsburg to Virginia, portions of Virginia Beach. We're based out of Yorktown, Virginia. And I'm going to back it up a little bit and tell you a little bit about my story and then how Cookie Text evolved out of that. I was raised in Hampton, one of the few people that is actually from here. I was the youngest of 11 children, and born in the early 70s, you realize that my parents started having children in the 50s. So they were old school. And no credit card, the phone that still was connected to the wall, no cable. I told my stepdaughter one day, I was like, you know, when I was in 5th grade, I had 2 dresses. And she goes, I don't wear many dresses. I said, no, I had 2 dresses. I wore the one dress on Monday, the other one on Tuesday, and I went back to the Monday dress on Wednesday. Those were my clothes. And so we didn't have a whole lot growing up. And, I mean, of course, my mom stayed home. Dad worked. He was civil service over at Fort Monroe. And I went to bed in the summer of, right before we started 4th grade. And I woke up the next morning, and my dad had called everybody to the kitchen, and all my siblings weren't around anymore because several had moved away. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what is this meeting about? And he tells us, well, your mom died last night. And I'm like, what in the world? And so we trudge along, and so here I am with the dad that is kind of strict, and we're already struggling. And I get to 18, and it's the January right before I turn 18. I'm senior over at Phoebus High School, and my dad is diagnosed with terminal cancer. And so, freshman year, mid-break, my dad passes away. So here I am, almost 19 years old, and 0 parents. Youngest of 11, no promise of college for my parents. I was figuring it out. I'd started working at 15 at a movie theater, and I have worked ever since then until my first son was born. So I was kind of a fighter and a survivor by nature. If something was going to get done, it was because I was going to do it. If I was going to go to college, it was because I was going to do it. If I was, going to get from point A to point B, if I was up in college, I'd spent 2 years of college in New York. If I was going to get from New York to home to see my brothers and sisters, I was going to figure out how to do it. So that just is a little background of me. I graduated ultimately from Old Dominion University with a degree in counseling, and then I went to MCV in Richmond and got a degree in occupational therapy. So I worked over right near where Sean, who was our last speaker, lives, in stroke and brain injury rehab. And so I helped people that had a stroke or a brain injury figure out how to toilet themselves and get dressed and stuff like that. And then I became a mom, and that's the last I worked. I have 3 boys. I have a stepdaughter from my husband's previous marriage, and I have 3 incredible boys. And they're 15, 13, and 12 right now. So the 12-year-old gets to the age where it's time for mom to go back to work. Meanwhile, I had spent the interim years volunteering. I was the Cub Scout den leader, I was the chess club chair, I was the PTA president, I was on the church thing, the hospitality committee. And so it's time for me to go back to work, and I go interview at an OT place. I'm going to go back to doing occupational therapy, and I walked in, and I couldn't get out fast enough. And they were ready to put me back on the schedule because it was another Riverside organization. And I got in my car, and I was like, I'm not that girl anymore. I had started making my kids' birthday cakes and was doing all these creative things through Cub Scouts. And I had kids at the chess club. Our culminating thing was they would stand up and play life-size chess. And the kids would have the chess symbols on their shirts. And I would have spent an hour in the gym putting the board down. And I had just found this different part of myself. And so as I made cakes for people that were beyond my family, I told my husband, if I'm going to make anything out of this, they darn sure better pay me by the hour, not the piece, because I was not efficient. The good thing is that occupational therapy is all about activity analysis and breaking things down. And I thought, I like this creative part and this giving part because I'm a giver by nature. And I like to do this whole thing where I create something and I it's part of somebody's gift or their celebration or whatever. But I can't do it with cakes because I couldn't measure that. I told my husband, if I'm going to do something with this, it's got to be with cookie cakes. Because cakes, everybody wants their cake to look like Ace of Cakes or like the Cake Boss or something. It's like 18 different tiers and the fondant things. And it just got to the point where I had to be an engineer and a culinary expert and an artist. And I was like, this is just too much. But cookies can only go so high. I was like, we'll do this. So one day I said to myself, what about if just locally I sent out like a cookiegram, like a cookie cake that had, just a little message on it. Thanks for bringing in my mail, get well soon, something like that. And I thought, but this was before Instagram, so that wasn't a very current term, gram. And I thought, well, it would have to be a cookie text, because that's what people are doing now, they're sending texts. I was like, cookie text, that's got legs. So I continued to ruminate, and it evolved into me shooting up from the couch one day and thinking to myself, an edible tweet. And that, between the text and the tweet and the edible, it all tied together for me with social media and being current and the fact that I wanted people to be able to shop online. And so I got the idea in like May of 11. We delivered our first products in October of 2011. Initially, I was working out of the back of a pretzel factory. They had an extra space in the back of their kitchen. It was much easier to get approved through there than trying to navigate how to have a home kitchen. So I'm working out of the pretzel kitchen. We're delivering our first things. And 2 weeks into that, the pretzel shop closes. So my husband is a car guy. I got to tell you, he's a car guy. The garage is his thing. We move into our garage. And at first I have like this little tiny thing space in my garage, and I'm carrying the cookies into the house to bake in the oven. And I pretty much kept it under wraps for about 2 years that I was working out of there. And slowly, we evolved bigger and bigger, and I bought more and more product, more and more stuff. Now my garage is a full-blown commercial kitchen. People walk in there and they're like, whoa. And when the gal from the Department of Agriculture came to inspect, I think since she inspects home kitchens all the time, she kind of expected maybe like the cat lady's kitchen. And she walks into the garage and she goes, this is nice. And I was like, yes, because I was stressing out. So that was October of 11. There's been a ton of hurdles since then. But I wanted to speak to you about that's how the business evolved. It's connected to my house. I have another unorthodox thing in that the people that I employ are largely at-home moms like me. The at-home moms, there are not that many anymore, but there are a lot of women that just want a little bit of pocket money. and they don't want to be put on a schedule and have to work, every 8 to 4, every 9 to 5. So I have one at-home mom that works 3 days a week, two others that work 1 day a week, and then my Saturday deliveries are covered by high school kids. And so they text me the night before, these moms, and say, "What's up for tomorrow?" And I basically give them there's one, I tell them the distance ones, roughly how many. The beauty of that is when I don't have any orders, I'm not paying anybody. I also have a gal that is on payroll that makes all the cookie dough now, and she takes care of a lot of the bookkeeping and she basically works her took-us off whenever I need her to work her took-us off, and then when I don't need her, she's perfectly content. The key to that is that I explained to them before they came on board what they were getting into. You want to make a little extra money? And I can warn you, I know the trends by now. I know we're going to be wild in February. We're going to be wild during Teacher Appreciation Week, wild at graduation, and then pretty much from Thanksgiving until 2 days before Christmas, you will have a lot of work to do. And they sign on, and they commit, and they're happy. So I pay all those drivers like contract workers. So between the garage and the odd way that I employ people, I think those are two things that are a little bit out of the box. But then I'll just tell you a couple things that have worked for me with regard to growing the business. Because I'm not a numbers girl. I don't love numbers, but the gal that takes care of my numbers, I have a couple, husband and wife down in Florida that have rebuilt my website, and they help me with my branding and all that. And she looks at the numbers, and she tells me, the percentage of growth compared to what Entrepreneur Magazine says is good, and we are like 5 times that. Our sales, for November of this year, were 35% higher than November of last year. We have a good niche with businesses. What's worked for me is that every customer that orders from Cookie Text pretty much thinks that that's the only order we have all day. We treat every order the same. We have all sorts of standard operating procedures, the way things are going. And so if you send me a text because you happen to know me and say, "What's the status of this order?" I can figure it out, and I can let you know. You're not going to know that I have 40 other things out there getting delivered as well. People feel, Sean talked about it, and the guys beforehand talked about it. A key part, I think, in small business and growing your business is connection. People want to feel seen and heard, and part of what Cookie Text is helping people connect. You send a cookie to somebody else, and there's a connection between you two, and I'm helping you with that. The sender feels connected to the company because we took such great care of their order, and then they posted something on Facebook, and we responded to it. We're very good with social media, but I have a couple disclaimers about social media. I wouldn't have a business today if it weren't for Facebook. My initial investment was minuscule. My initial marketing budget was non-existent. I used social media. But I had a relationship with people prior to the business, and those people were my first customers. The first people that liked the Cookie Text page were my friends on Facebook. They were the same people that I had been the den leader for their child. I had been the chess club chair. I had driven their kid to soccer practice. I think what people forget about social media sometimes is they put the media out there and they put the information out there, but they forget the social part. And the social part is a two-way street. So if you're trying to connect with somebody on social media and keep track of them, you have to interact. There has to be a back and forth. You can't throw information at people repeatedly and never respond to what they're trying to throw back at you. And I have a couple examples of that. One is I had a girlfriend that we were friends in 4th grade. We became friends on Facebook. And I didn't see her hardly ever. She was in Hampton. I was in the Yorktown section of, or the Tab section Yorktown. But I followed her on Facebook. We kept up. And she posted one Monday after I had started the company that she had had the world's worst weekend. So I'm in the cookie text business, and she's a friend of mine. How do you sell your stuff to start with? How do you introduce your stuff to start with? You give it away. So I'm a giver by nature, and I sent her a cookie text. I delivered it to the school where she was, just like cheer up, buttercup, or something like that. This woman, I think, since has ordered a cookie text for every occasion she's ever had. She's written multiple reviews for cookie text online. She's the biggest fan. She doesn't get a cookie text for somebody without posting a picture and tagging me or tagging the company. The social media part is a two-way street. If you're just going to build a Twitter page or an Instagram feed or a Facebook page just to say that your company has a social media presence, they have a media presence, unless you're connecting with your customers. And people connect with cookie text. The other fun story I have, which is a little bit of a twist, and I didn't plan on sharing it. I had an experience last fall where I'd gone out of my way for a customer, above and beyond. I mean, we typically go give great service. I'd gone out of my way, and this woman, no matter what I did, wasn't happy. And so I'd posted on my personal Facebook. I was like, I finally met the customer that can't be pleased. And so I noticed the next day she'd gone to my Facebook business page, and she had given me a 1-star review and said something kind of nasty. Well, every review we've ever had was 5 stars. And I looked at the 1 star and I realized it brought our rating down to 4.9. And I kind of laughed and I was like, ah. So I went back to my personal Facebook page. Now, mind you, I've asked these people repeatedly in the past. I'm like, hey, if you like our product, write us a review. Some would, some wouldn't, my personal friends. I write that day that this woman had written a poor review of cookie text, and that, oh, well, it brought our rating down to 4.9. I'm moving on. There was like kind of a Facebook lynching of this woman. They flocked to the Facebook page, and everybody that had never written a review wrote their own 5-star reviews. They went to her review and rebutted everything she said. And it was, I kind of felt like, I don't know how many of y'all read Malcolm Gladwell, but I kind of felt like my tribe had come to defend me. And it was a great moment, and it was one of those moments where you feel like people are connected to this. People believe in the power of the good and the entrepreneur, and people, I have traction. People have had so many good experiences with the company that they knew that this must be on her and not on us. And that's not to say that I don't believe that we ever mess up. We mess up, and when we mess up, we fess up. We go out of our way to fix it. And I find that people are startled when they contact me and say, oh, I had this, and we didn't get the balloon that we ordered, or we added on a balloon and it didn't come. And I say to them, oh my gosh, that is completely my fault. I can either run a balloon out to you today, or to the recipient today, or I can credit your account, or your next one's on us. We go out of our way to make sure that everybody feels like we give a crap. Because how many people, when you call the company and say you messed up, go, oh yeah, you're right, we sure did. And people are like so nice now that they're like, wow, fantastic. You can't unring a bell. If you mess up, you got to move on. And that kind of plays back to me losing my parents young. I don't believe in dwelling on bad, or like the mistakes we make in cookie text or the bad experiences of my life. I believe in moving on. It happened, and it's time to keep going. One of my pet peeves is, and this is, sorry if this is offensive, when I drive behind a car and they have in memory of, and they have the birth date and the death date of somebody. And I think to myself, I don't want to live thinking about what I don't have. I want to think about what I do have. And I have a fantastic family. I have a fantastic group of kids. I have a company that I created. I mean, the term cookie text, I own. I have the trademark. I own two other trademarks as well. My company's growing exponentially. There are moments when I think to myself, wow, I'm bigger than I thought I was ever going to be when I conceived it. I kind of thought I would deliver a handful of cookies from time to time. We have one corporate client that, all of our corporate clients for the holidays have come back all 4 years from when they started. The one, my favorite one, adds every year. And so their bill for this holiday was $3,500 worth of cookies that they sent to their clients. And they're kind of an odd group of guys that run this company. And I'm going, ooh, I don't know if they realize that their bill has, gotten this high. And one day I answer my phone, and there's nobody saying hello. It's just somebody playing a message. And I realized the phone number was from that company. And they play a message, and it's a thank you from one of their clients that says, oh my gosh, I just ate the best cookie in my life. Thanks so much. It was great doing a job with you this year. I can't wait to do another big job this year. Let's work together again in 2016. You rock. Best cookie ever. And hung up. And I'm like, that's it. If it's costing this company between a $25 and a $45 cookie to reach that client and let them know that, hey, we value you and we value our relationship, then it's a total win for everybody involved.